Hello. Today I want to talk about something that I think is very important, and that is Ibrahim Traore talking to his African brothers and sisters about bleaching their skin. Now, we're talking about Africans trying to become Europeans. And to me, that seems a little strange because for a long time, we've known that there's evidence that humanity started in Africa. And I kind of like this part because I want to repeat myself over and over and over, especially to African Americans, but to Africans, Europeans, Asians, whomever. I want to say it so much that I can rewrite the conditioning of those who actually conditioned us to feel inferior, to feel like we were not human, to treat us in such a manner that we doubted our very being. And so now we're at the point in the 21st century that you hate yourself so much that you want to become something else, something lesser than what you truly are. It's because we don't have the information. Information age, they say. Well, information is power. That's why they hid it from us. That's why they wouldn't allow you to read books. And then they gave you the one book they know that they could control you by, and that you would make that book everything that they had hoped for so that they could rule you by a religion, not by the spirit. Now, Ibrahim Traore has given his people an ultimatum because whatever they're doing to bleach their skin is probably going to kill them. And that's what the man wants them to do anyway. You see, I'm going to give you some information, and I want you to understand that this information is not something I, dreamt up, something that I created. This information has been in certain people's hands for hundreds of years, centuries, maybe 1,000. And they knew that they could not let this information out because the best way to control a person is to make him ignorant. To have that person to have no knowledge of himself, his language, his culture, to not even own his own thoughts. Before I go there, though, we have to take care of oneself first. And then if a wise person has the right spiritual mechanism in place, he will take care of his mate, his children, his family, his community, the earth, and all people. And you heard me. After all the atrocities and all of the things that have happened to us, we can't allow ourselves to become like the deceiver, the thief, the liar. We have to exhibit those qualities that makes us the unique human beings that we truly are. You see, African Americans are not just merely descendants of slaves that overlook a rich and complex heritage that is deeply embedded within their DNA. No, they are much more than that. All some people want to do is tell these stories about slavery. But the truth of the matter is that African Americans and their DNA carry remnants of ancient humanity, linking them not only to Africa, but to many known civilizations. We have to reclaim our identity. But I ask you to listen as I attempt to, in a few minutes, tell a story of a people who populated this whole earth. And nobody wanted them to know. Because if the world knew the significance of these people, then they cannot be the gods that they have set themselves up to be in place of a people who were enslaved that have the most unique, diversified, and powerful DNA that science has ever. You see, they told us our lineage began with enslavement, that we were brought to this land devoid of history, culture, identity. But what if I told you that that narrative is incomplete? What if I revealed that the true story is ingrained in our DNA and that for years, scientists overlooked a crucial group whose genetic makeup could alter our understanding of humanity? African Americans, descendants of the enslaved, the dislocated, the forgotten. When researchers finally deciphered the genetic code, they were astonished to find African American DNA not only linked to Africa, but also to humanity's genesis. This isn't fiction. This isn't a conspiracy. It is a scientific reality that the significance of this revelation is so profound. It has been obscured for centuries. The Western narrative portrayed Africa as a primitive and savage land, and Black Americans depicted merely as an afterthought, remnants of a fractured lineage. Yet, their DNA is reshaping the narrative, presenting a new contribution to society and civilization. In reclaiming their identity, the suggestion is that they carry Black African Americans DNA older than the pyramids, an assertion of pride and a call for empowerment, encouraging individuals to embrace their identities as foundational to human history rather than marginal, and to put down that skin bleach. Pick up that black pride. Look to the last poets and find out what black truly is. I will say and bid you on TikTok good night, but you on YouTube, we can go a little further. At the intersection of history and genetics, notably the text intertwines genetic findings with historical events, positing that African presence and influence extend beyond the confines of the Atlantic slave trade. Various examples, such as connections to African ancient civilizations like the Olmecs and interactions with cultures in Spain and India, create a multifaceted view of how African ancestry intermingled globally and internally, fostering a sense of belonging to a broader human continuum. I tell you, Black Americans, African Americans, you are not merely just survivors of slavery, but as bearers of ancient wisdom, living archives of history. Every person on earth has a trace of African DNA, but no other group possesses the unique blend of ancient lineages and adaptations found in African Americans. We're not just a branch on the family tree. Historically, scientists focused on bones and fossils to trace human evolution, but it wasn't until the Human Genome Project that astonishing discoveries emerged. Researchers identified genetic diversity hotspots, regions of DNA containing tremendous variation, and where was the most diverse DNA found? Not in Europe or Asia, but specifically among African descended populations from West to Central Africa, the very areas many African Americans trace their roots to. Consider the implications. The descendants of the transatlantic slave trade who were forcibly uprooted and dispersed throughout the Americas carry some of the oldest and most intricate DNA sequences on this planet. Something scientists never anticipated. Traditional beliefs assign little or no value to us, presuming our genetics reflected a mere amalgamation for labor, but our genetic makeup tells a radically different story. If African American DNA narrates the origins of humanity, what startling revelations scientists uncovering? To grasp this, one must recognize that not all DNA carry the same weight. Every individual holds a narrative within their genetic code, yet some stories stretch deeper and older than others. And this is why African Americans are hated so much. Upon analyzing African American DNA, researchers unearthed unexpected findings. African Americans have the most genetically varied DNA recorded among modern humans. Let's break this down. Greater genetic variation within a population gene signifies a more ancient lineage. Why is that? Because mutations accumulate over ages, similar to a tree ring. More rings indicate an older tree, a tree. Thus, as scientists began sequencing the DNA of African Americans originating from diverse West, Central, and even East African ancestries, they discovered millions of genetic variations surpassing those found in any other global population. In effect, we were not merely ancient, we were extraordinarily so. As a landmark study from Harvard indicated that a single African American individual could exhibit more genetic variation than an entire European population. Another report from Nature Genetics revealed that nearly 80% of African Americans possess DNA segments absent from standard global databases. Why is that? These sequences are hidden from contemporary science due to their remarkable age and specificity to African descended individuals. Consider this question. If African American harbor these ancient genetic markers, what does it reveal about our true identity? One cannot claim inferiority when one's DNA predates the pyramids. One cannot claim inferiority when one's DNA predates the pyramids. So how in the world, if our DNA predates the pyramids, that you come up with all white Egyptologists telling the story of a people you know not, but you stole too? You have to get in front of that so that you become relevant and stay relevant. And this is why the lie is protected so much. These sequences are hidden from contemporary science due to their remarkable age and specificity to African descendant individuals. Keep that in mind. However, the narrative deepens further. You might have heard of mitochondrial Eve, the woman whose DNA connects every living today. What they often omit is that she was an African woman, likely from Southern or West Africa, regions where most African Americans trace their lineage. Hence, when people make jokes about slavery, but DNA remains unaltered, and science is finally aligning with the ancestral spirit because generations of Black individuals have felt intuitively that we embody something greater, and now we have possessed the truth, scientific and biological validation. This tale is just commencing after all of these years and all of these lies. It seems as though the people who told them don't die because your people that come after you tell the same lies and nobody dies. But it matters not because African American DNA continues to reveal about lost tribes, ancient migrations, and concealed empires that will challenge the fundamental understanding of all of these so-called Egyptologists, scientists, geneticists. People of power already know this. This is not merely about history. It is about your origin story and your legacy, and it's time you become aware of the truth. The urgency behind this knowledge is profound. For centuries, Black Americans have been led to doubt their worth, instilling the belief that they emerged from nothing. And from nothing, they want to bleach their skin. They want to become like the perpetrator. They want to be in power, but not as themselves, as someone else. The great imposter. Yet the whisper from our ancestor proclaimed that we are not merely the product of bondage. Yet the whisper from our ancestor proclaimed we are not merely the product of bondage, we are the living record of human civilization. Furthermore, many people presume that African Americans have severed ties with their tribal identities, claiming that slavery disconnected them from their nation, cultures, and roots. But what if African Americans did not lose their roots and rather inherited them? The transatlantic slave trade did not stem from a singular tribe. It extracted from hundreds. Over centuries, these lineages intertwined, resulting in a genetic mosaic unprecedented in its complexity. This suggests African Americans are not devoid of their tribal past. Rather, they are the embodiment of it. In closing, I want you to reflect on this and what occurs when you amalgamate the most potent bloodlines from every empire, every kingdom, every priesthood along the West African shore over 400 years. You create the African American genome. You develop resilience, creativity, rhythm, soul, innovation, and the genesis that fashioned music, literature, sports, activism, and entire cultures from the ground up. You create a community that was never expected to survive, yet flourish remarkably. You see, black don't crack. DNA provides evidence to this effect, since embedded with African American genetics are marks of incredible resilience. Immunity traits aiding survival through the Middle Passage, coerced labor and malnutrition, genes that resisted illness, healed wounds, and withstood trauma. Scientific findings indicate that even amidst the most dire conditions imaginable, certain genetic traits allow Black individuals to resist becoming broken. Certain genetic traits allow Black individuals to resist becoming broken. This teaching remains absent in curriculum. What they neglect to mention is that our ancestors were genetically equipped to endure experiences no other population in modern history could. Because they were not the children, they were the parents. Because they were not the progeny of anybody, unless you want to talk about the Creator. They created. In closing, again, Black Americans, African Americans, whatever you may call yourself, don't give up yet, because the story is just getting interesting. For decades, historians dismissed accounts of the stories that were told as folklore. It's because somebody else was telling our narrative. But now, it doesn't matter who tells our narrative, European, Asian, African. We don't have to say a word because our DNA speaks for us. I look forward to talking to you again very soon. I'll give you this. Most of us are too busy paying attention to triflings, celebrities, politics, whatever. But I was told by a birdie that the present administration, in order to get and gain control of this nation in a kingship type manner, is looking to emulate or put into effect some of the attributes and aspects of the insurrection of 1807. You see, I've been telling you for a while that sometimes the person who plays the fool and we think is the fool, he has another game plan that we don't see. And if he becomes commander-in-chief of the military and then turns that military on you and I, instead of our true enemies, where would that leave you? Leave us. So the black man is not your foe, although your true enemy looks just like you. Thank you.